It's the third Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. Central Time, and you know what that means. It's Tuesday Tech Talk with me. I'm your host, Christina Clausen. Super excited to share our theme today. I've been working on it. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not overwhelming you guys with technical information, but just enough to give you guys some ideas. Today, we're going to talk about using technology and data to prep for the holidays. Super excited about this one. The holidays can be super overwhelming for your team in the restaurant, and just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make that holiday manageable, or whatever holiday manageable. So, a little bit about myself. I am a coach here at CaterLinked. My name is Christina Clausen, also the CEO of Make Good Lemonade. I am a technical project manager by trade, and I have managed onboardings and integrations for all of these solutions you see here. So if anything piques your interest or anything you want my take on, please feel free to reach out on CaterLinked. I'm online almost every single day. So let's get into it. Who is this webinar for anyway? So this webinar is for anybody who handles off-premise order management for catering and to go. And it'll be super high level. I promise we're not going to go through any weird functions or anything. This is not like an Excel tutorial. But when you are responsible for off-prem orders, that order doesn't stop when a customer hits submit or gets a confirmation from your catering sales manager. That order is satisfied once that customer has your food in their hot little hands, or once whatever catering obligations you've promised have been satisfied. So there's a lot more involved after that person hits submit. And let's talk about how you can manage that volume or help manage that volume. Some terminology today. Our terminology, this is a little bit different. We usually are going through like restaurant terminology because it can differ from brand to brand. So we just want to make sure we're on the same page. Terminology is a little different today because we're talking more about spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. So bear with me. Calculated fields. This is using one or more fields that you already have to present data in a different way. For example, for orders, you may have the day, like the date, including the day, the month, and the year. And you can actually use a calculated field to populate what day of the week that order was taken or what day of the week that order was fulfilled, for example. Conditional formatting is a way to use color to visualize data more easily. A kiosk, I think a lot of us are familiar with a kiosk. It's a touchscreen device that allows customers to order food in the restaurant without intervention from an employee. Line busting. These are different ways to shorten a line at a counter serve restaurants. Also, you guys may be familiar, Chick-fil-A uses some ways to line bust for their drive-through, for example. A pivot table is a tool like in Excel to take a bunch of disparate data in a spreadsheet and create a table to make it easier to understand. A QR code is an image that when scanned brings you to a website. And wireless payment devices is a device that allows you to take payment at a table or outside of a restaurant. So, are you guys ready to get into it? I am so ready to get into it. So excited. Today, we're going to be covering 3 basic areas. Number 1 is historic reports that can help you easily visualize order data and order volumes and what to do with it. How data you already have can help your back of house execute efficiently, and tech to improve customer flow on busy pickup days. And these are all sort of regarding holidays. Some restaurants do this for every day, but let's start with the holidays. So, holiday volume evaluation. This is the process of evaluating the order volumes from the same holiday last year to help you adjust your available orders, volume, staffing, and hours to effectively manage order flow on busy days. Now, just an aside, you guys, I am simplifying this a little bit. There are some caveats or some ways that you can get more deep into the data for these visualizations, but we're starting at a high level today. So there are some caveats, but this is just basics because let's just say we're starting out and we just want to start out slow, crawl, walk, run kind of thing. So what I created when I was on the brand side was something called a holiday heat map. And a holiday heat map took all of the orders based on either like your revenue center, your handoff mode, something like that, to visualize what order volumes look like for those different ways that a customer is interacting with your brand. So, and I apologize for anybody who may be red-green colorblind. These may be a little harder to read. But these, like this area right here is really busy. This is slightly less busy. For dine-in volumes, to-go volumes, busy right here, and catering, of course, a little bit all over the place. So what this does is, at a glance, you can see our dine-in is really busy between 5 and 7 p.m. Our to-go is really busy from 11 to 2 p.m. and then from 4 to 6. So it's a really just easy way for you to show your team, especially like in the field, your area directors and stuff, like how busy you were last year. So it just gives everybody an idea. Now, what do you do with all of this data that you have? So firstly, you need to learn your kitchen's average output per hour or 15 minutes. Now, that sounds really complex. The best way to get this information, though, is going to be from your area directors and your general managers of your stores. That number is going to need to be tweaked over time, depending, and that number can vary, right? So if you have a really seasoned kitchen staff, they're really good at working together, they're probably going to execute at a higher volume than a restaurant that has a bunch of new people that are sort of still getting their footing. Could also have to do with your kitchen layout, right? Maybe you've got a power wheel setup, and power wheel setup is going to execute differently than, say, like a mirror system for your kitchen. So there's a lot of dependencies, but let's just start out asking your GMs, asking your directors what the output of your kitchens looks like. Your goal across all of your different handoff modes is to not exceed capacity. I'm sure you guys have all exceeded capacity on busy days, and it's really, really hard to come back from that, right? So what does this have to do with catering and to-go? What you want to do for these busy days is adjust to-go and catering availability around dine-in. So you want to understand where your capacity is, what your average daily volume was in the dining room during that time, and then work to adjust your to-go and catering. So let's say, for example, your kitchen capacity is 100 orders an hour. And for your dine-in, let's say you had 80 orders last year, or on average you have 80 orders during that particular time. Then you want to make sure that you only have to-go and catering order availability of about 20. Again, simple startup math. I realize catering orders are probably going to be a lot bigger than to-go, but you're essentially trying to reduce the availability of to-go and catering so that you do not exceed kitchen capacity. Okay. And the reason why we're adjusting to-go and catering is because we can. Dine-in's always a bogey, right? Like, you don't know if you're going to get on Christmas Eve like a bus full of choir students who are coming in 10 minutes before close, or if you're going to have, for some reason, a new store popped up across the street and maybe your volume is lower. We don't know. It's a bogey, but we're going to take our best guess at what dine-in is and then adjust to-go and catering accordingly to ensure that our kitchen can handle it. Now, below I've included some additional ways that restaurants that I've worked for and with have sort of helped manage that order volume too. So number one, consider not taking same day orders. Obviously for catering on holidays, it's almost unheard of to be able to take a catering on a holiday. But for your to-go orders, or maybe you take reservations for dine-in, so that you can understand what your order totals are going to look like. For to-go, maybe removing orders from the top and the bottom of the hour and just putting it at 15 minutes. Olo, for example, you can drill down that close to just spread out those orders so that your kitchen doesn't get a spike and then has to recover. You're just trying to equalize the orders that are coming into the kitchen. Also, if you don't have the ability to remove hours like you do in Olo, maybe increase lead times for your to-go orders. Work with your CSMs, your catering sales managers, to make sure that they understand what the busy times of day are so that they can negotiate with your customers to see if they can make those orders during a lull. Maybe there's a nearby restaurant, the same restaurant, that we can, have them deliver that order instead. Also consider using delivery services. If you've got large order fulfillment through DoorDash, consider having them deliver those catering orders on holidays so you don't have people out of pocket during your busy times. So a lot of different ways that you can manage that to ensure that your kitchen is having a good day, relatively. What are some other ways that you can use this data? So for scheduling, you could, if you know that you're going to be busier during dinner time, maybe you can have somebody that normally works earlier in the day come and help with dinner prep and help with dinner service, or help with some of those later catering orders that you may have in the day. Also, adjusting your third-party delivery, those marketplaces. So let's say you've got a lull between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Make your availability just during those lulls on those third-party marketplaces. On these holidays, it's also your responsibility to protect your SEO. And in order to protect your SEO on those third-party marketplaces, make sure that any hours changes are reflected a couple weeks in advance, and also hour changes. So if you're only going to be available during those couple of hours in the middle, make sure that you adjust your hours for those holidays. And they do allow you to adjust holidays rather than your normal schedule. And usually if you have an account manager, they'll remind you too. And as we spoke about, volume manipulation with catering and to go, to ensure that the kitchen doesn't exceed capacity. Also, store hour adjustments. When I first started at Famous Dave's, the Super Bowl Sunday is probably the biggest to go holiday. I started getting calls saying, hey, we're going to close 2 hours early, close us on everything. And again, that can hurt your SEO. So make sure that you're checking with the field ahead of time to see if they're going to be closing early on those holidays. Adjust it on those third-party delivery apps, adjust it on Google, and adjust it on your website. So also, it's really, really important to provide the full picture when you have a conversation with your C-suite about this. I can't emphasize this enough. Your sales the first year you do this are probably going to be lower. And what's going to ensure that you'll never be able to do this again is if your C-suite sees that sales were lower during that day. But make sure you tell the whole story. Refunds are probably going to be lower too. So you could actually be net positive because of less refunds. And if you have less refunds, you can also argue with your C-suite that customer sentiment is a lot more positive because a lot less people ask for refunds. Also, check team sentiment. I have to shout out Patrick Lasik, who is an area director at Barbecue Holdings, because he did this, and this is probably one of the most amazing things. He sent out a Google form and said to the managers closing on holidays, you have to submit this document before you leave. And it asked all sorts of questions: how the day went, what went bad, what went good, what can we do better? And it was something that we always used in like a postmortem for holidays at the support center to inform how we managed holidays moving forward. So if you can say less refunds, customer sentiment was better. Overall, the teams in the restaurant sentiment a lot better. They were happier with the way that the holiday went. You can use those to argue that you should be able to continue this trend in the future. Also, refine as you go. You're going to have an operator who says it was a lot slower than we normally expect. Then bump up the number of orders they can take in their capacity for the next holiday. Maybe there were a couple of stores that, team sentiment was low, customer sentiment was still low. Maybe adjust those numbers a little bit too. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not an exact science, but we're making lemonade, right? So make sure that you're making lemonade and continue to refine as you go. So let's talk about prep charts. Prep charts are a little bit different than like prep sheets that you see in like Monkey and that kind of thing. But what it does is it takes future orders that have already been placed and provides your team with information on what they need to prep in advance. And this is a really good argument for why you should have a good catering software, is to ensure that you have access to this data and it's not just hidden somewhere in your POS and it hasn't fired yet, so you really don't have it. So this is a prep chart. And essentially what this is different pies and cakes in different locations. And this is the number that were sold for tomorrow. So this is the number that the teams need to prep the night before. So this specific chart this is an example of something that I created for Village Inn and Baker Square. When the company I was working for bought those brands, they refused to sell pie online. And pie was making millions and millions of dollars for these restaurants. And they said, we just don't know what to prep. Like, we've got to prep stuff ahead of time. We don't know what to do. So what we did was cut off orders for tomorrow at 6 p.m. the night before and said, you can run this data and refresh it at 6 p.m. and it'll give you your marching orders, right? So the Hilltop location knew they needed to bake off 12 apple pies. They needed to bake off and decorate 11 pumpkin pies. So the team knew that night what they needed to execute for tomorrow. This was also the case at Famous Dave's. We had franchisees who wouldn't sell turkeys or hams online. And I don't know about you, but I'm not calling a store and saying, hey, I want to order my entire Thanksgiving meal through you, and just hope that that person wrote it down on top of the 17 other things that they're working on at the time, right? So we shut down taking turkeys and hams 3 days in advance because it takes 3 days to thaw, smoke, and prep smoked turkeys and hams. So we were able to get the franchisees online because we were able to provide that information based on future orders that were already in our system. So it makes sure that the team has enough time to prep and, gives them an exact idea of what they need to prep. So let's think about what else this can do though. So again, things that you need to thaw, but also other things that can be prepped ahead of time. So if you have a catering meal and you know that it comes with like 2 quarts of mashed potatoes and a quart of beans and a quart of green bean salad or green bean casserole, for example, those are things that can be portioned a couple of hours in advance. So you can have people prepping in the back, or like if there are things that can be refrigerated, like macaroni salad or potato salad, something like that, your team can prep it that night. So if you're selling it in quarts, they can put it in quarts, or they can put it in pints, and they can throw it in a refrigerator. And then your team tomorrow, all they've got to do is get all of that stuff together, put it in a bag, and give it to the customer. So you don't have somebody who takes that order and is scooping mashed potatoes and scooping green bean casserole. They can just grab that information. They can grab those food items. They can give it to the guests and get them out the door as quickly as possible, which is the goal on those holidays. A really cool thing to think about with this too is we all know that food costs are high. So if your team knows exactly how much they're making and exactly how much they're portioning out, then you're creating less food waste, right? So it's a really good way to ensure that you're not wasting too much food and that your team is prepped and ready to go when service starts. So it's a win-win. Awesome. So let's talk about our third and final piece today, which is tacking your flow. So use technology to streamline the customer experience in your restaurant to ensure that they get in and out as quickly as possible, and that they know what they need to do when they're in the restaurant to get their food and get out. Think about why customers are coming into your restaurant. If you understand why, then you can think about what their journey should look like and how you should manage that flow. So firstly, let's start with a table serve restaurant. This is what your lobby should look like. And this is just the base for table serve. You have a please wait to be seated sign. It is at eye level, and sometimes it is in the middle of the aisle, right? Or in the middle of the walkway to ensure that people see it. Let that inform how your pickup experience should be. Your pickup experience should have a sign above your host stand that tells the customer what they need to do to get their takeout order. And wherever they need to pick up their to-go order, their pick up catering order, that there's a sign there as well. If you have a huge bar and it just says see bartender, people are going to stand anywhere. But if they're standing in a specific place, that informs the bartender of why they're there. Also make sure that customer is as close to their pickup food as possible. The reason why you want to put this above your host stand is because if you put it in front of your host stand and you're busy, nobody's going to see that sign. You don't want to put it as like a 10 or 12 point font sign on top of your host stand, because again, somebody 20 feet away at the end of the line isn't going to see it. So you want to make sure that they're highly visible. Always think about your busiest times when you're putting signs up in the restaurant. So let's talk about a holiday in a table serve restaurant. So you still have your see host to be seated or please wait to be seated sign over here on the left-hand side, and you have to go. So maybe you're setting up a temporary or permanent to go area in your lobby, and you're setting up a prepaid line as well as a pay here line. You could even consider setting up some impulse purchases like extra desserts, extra sides, beverages that people can go, oh, I didn't even think about that. And then they purchase it when they're getting their food. Creating two lines does, a couple of things. It allows those prepaid customers to get in and get out as quickly as possible. It still allows people to order food, right, if they haven't ordered food already. But it means that if I'm waiting for a big catering order, I'm not standing beside somebody who's painstakingly trying to figure out if they should order, if they can order French fries or if they should be good and order a salad. So you're making sure that those customers can get in and out. A cool thing that this does too is those customers waiting for dine-in, they can see that you have to go and catering if you've put really cool materials up behind your to-go area. But if they also see those customers coming in and getting out, they know that you're good at it and that you're effective at it, which means that in the future, when they wanted to go order, they're going to think about your company. So one way to use technology, right, is having these registers or having some wireless payment here so that you can really quickly set something like this up for those busy days. Now let's talk about counter serve. So this is where we're using line busting. So one of the ways that you can use line busting, and line busting is getting people out of the line. So the people that really need to speak to somebody at your cash register can speak to that person. So one thing you can do is set up a QR code, a giant QR code that sends that customer to your website. If you want them to be able to sit down, you have, table tents next to it that a customer can bring with their to their table for dine-in, but they can also use this for to go. So you get those people who are just want to make a quick order out of the line to allow people who really need to speak to a representative to do so. So somebody who has a big complex catering order, they may need help carrying it out, or somebody who needs assistance, maybe didn't bring their phone today. Another way to line bust at a counter serve restaurant is to use kiosks. And again, sort of similar to the QR code, you have kiosks that people can go through and order whatever they want. And this opens up your staff to speak to people that really do need to talk to them, like, your folks who are ordering those big catering orders. And then those people can get in and out of the restaurant more quickly because these average orders that people are taking can be taken via these kiosks. So let's talk a little bit about wireless payment. When I was on the brand side, our most successful franchisee set up temporary tables in their lobby area. And they put up signs with the last initial of the first name. They put kitchen chits on all of the bags. And if an item that you needed was in a refrigerator, it was highlighted in blue. If you needed to pick it up from like a heating station, it was highlighted in pink. And the bag said like 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. So people knew how many bags they needed to pick up and if their drinks were in like a cooler or something. So how do we use technology to make this easier? You set up somebody in your front of house with a wireless payment device. So if somebody's having trouble finding their order, they can easily see why, maybe the order failed online. Or if somebody forgot to order something, you can add an order in the system real quick, have them pay and go take care of it. So making that experience for your walk-in customers for pickup a lot easier. You can also use wireless payment devices outside. As I mentioned earlier, Chick-fil-A does this to do line busting with their drive-through, but also, Village Inn and Baker's Square on busy holidays will rent refrigerated like 18-wheeler trailers and just put all of their pies and cakes in there. So you've got somebody who's checks people in, make sure that their order is due for today, make sure that everything went through okay. Or maybe, somebody inadvertently shows up in the line. They didn't order anything. We make a couple extra pies. So maybe they can purchase a pie and pay for it right there and get on their way. So on these really, really busy to-go days, you're not affecting operations of your dine-in because you've got everybody in the restaurant parking lot. So these are a couple ways that data and technology can help streamline those busy days in your restaurant. You can use these tools to help make your team's lives easier on those really hectic days. Hopefully some of this sparked some ideas for you on ways that you can make your team's lives easier. Now, we'll be working with our team at CaterLink to build some upcoming courses. It's probably going to take a while to build these. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions about reporting, need reporting help, or just want me to build some reporting for you, please feel free to reach out at makealemonade.com or feel free to message me directly. Also, I really want to thank you guys for your time today and find out what kind of questions you have. Why am I not in the chat? Not the chat. And also, too, you guys can put any questions that you have in the Q&A section. Ooh, no questions. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time. And if you have any questions, again, I'm on CaterLink almost every day. Please feel free to reach out. Hope you guys have a great day.